What is up, my fellow Chibits? Today I'm here to bring all of you the weekly anime review of Food Wars Season 2. So, Episode 3 is finally here, and this episode gives us the king of Stalkers. Legit, the king of Stalkers. It's so fucking creepy seeing this scene in anime form, because, for one, you think this guy is misunderstood, which I'm going to go into that. So, Subaru. He's a character, at first glance, he seems to be like a punk. He's a guy that seems to be like a guy that you don't want to be around. He's a delinquent, he's a guy that will get you into trouble. And then we get to see his interaction with Soma. He's having this conversation. It seems to be a guy that's kind of misunderstood. His personality is actually quite different from his outward appearance. That's what it appears to look like when you see the conversation with his introduction with Soma and him. And then, as the episode continues on, you then find out the real Subaru, which don't be mistaken for Subaru that is always suffering in ReZero, but the Subaru in this series, he is a stalker. He straight up knows when you shit, when you sleep, when you change your pair of underwear into pinks to yellows, and he also knows what your shirt size is, your clothing size. He knows everything, okay? This man, he stalks you, and he knows what you do. He knows when you sleep, okay? So, Subaru is a guy that wants to know everything about you. He wants to know the ins and outs, and instantly a creepy man. He knows what you like to wear. He knows you like to wear checkered pattern underwear. This man is just absolutely savage. And so, it's so funny seeing how his character was introduced, with how it looked like he was being misunderstood, and he was actually going to be a nice guy, and then we see the turnaround in the episode, and he's like something completely twisted. He's just a straight up stalker. So I love how this episode delivered that. I was a big fan of the way this episode delivered that, especially when he was just spying on Takumi, and he was just like, oh, he likes, the checkered pattern underwear mostly, and I'm like, bro, this man is just straight savage. So, yes, the character introduction, I think, of Subaru was just excellent. I completely enjoyed that. So, besides that, this episode concludes Hisako's match. And there's one thing from this match that you can really see going on here, and it is that Hisako is going to be getting a lot of character development, because if there's one thing about her character, which has been very obvious since her introduction, the way she's carried herself throughout Season 1 and now Season 2, she's been a character that is always wanting to follow behind Arena, always wanting to be behind her, be like her secretary or her helper, and stuff like that. She's just always been this person that follows behind the leader, and she never had this, big goal to ever be the #1 top chef. It was always a very small goal. She didn't really want to stretch out and become something huge when she possibly could. And this, entire little contest we had here in this episode, it gives us the beginning start of character development for Hisako and how she could change herself, where she won't just blindly follow Arena and just be #2 throughout the entirety of her life. Now, after this, entire competition, she might start eventually changing over to where she wants to be #1 and actually surpass Arena and become even better as a chef. So that's what the main point of this little competition was when it came to her little match. It was for her to start her character development to become a better chef. So I love how this episode was delivered on that regard too. I think majority of people could have understood where that was going when it came to her character, because of the way it was displayed at the end of the match, when you see how he said, oh, you shouldn't always want to be #2. Your goals are always so small. You're always thinking very small. You need to probably have bigger goals, and there's no way I could lose to someone that always wants to be second place. So I love that. I love the way that was delivered too. So there was some really good character development going on in this episode, along with characterization. Look, we have Subaru and his, characterization, and then we see this development with Hisako and how she's going to be changing herself, and then we get to see Takumi and Soma having their little bit of a rivalry, this rival-like, I guess, atmosphere between them, which was just so nice. It was a different type of feel than you normally see with these two characters, because as we've always seen since the beginning, Takumi looks at Soma as a rival. That's what he's always done since, his character introduction, and Soma, he's the kind of guy that doesn't really look at it as a rival. They're rivals, but he doesn't always act like, he thinks of him as a rival. And then seeing in this episode how he actually did something rival-like, and he was acknowledging Takumi's, passion to beat him, he accepted it, and he's like, we'll do a Shokugeki when we finally have the time for it, when everything is settled. We'll do this to settle our differences and to see who is a better chef. I love that scene, too. It was such a good scene when it came to that. Just seeing the atmosphere around Takumi of how he carried himself and how he smiled because he realized he finally is being looked at as a real rival when it comes to Soma. So that was some, good development for him as well. And then we move into the final scene with Takumi getting into some of his issues with Subaru. So Subaru, he attacks Takumi, not in a way of brutally physically attacking him, but he attacks him in a manner of psychological warfare. He attacks him and saying, your brother is a second-rate chef. He is always following behind his brother. He's a piece of trash. He can't do much. He's a bad chef. And, I mean, let's just face the cold, hard facts, okay? If you had, a younger brother, older brother, any family member, okay, and you care deeply for them, and they were doing the same profession that you were doing, and you truly cared about them, and you wanted them to succeed and become better, you would honestly be very upset if someone just walked up around you and it's like, oh, your brother fucking sucks, he's trash, he's always following behind you, he just needs to get the fuck out of here. You probably want to defend your brother. You'd want to defend his honor and do something for him. That's usually what majority of people would do. And so what Subaru did, he was an asshole. He tried to get under Takumi's skin and shake him up a little bit. That's kind of what was going on. It goes to show you some of the tactics that Subaru uses as a character to go up against his opponents. It's just not a normal chef match anymore. It's more of a guy that wants to be down and personal. He's a guy that will, take a shit on your front lawn and make sure you can smell it when you walk out the front door when your water spout starts watering your plants. He's the type of dude that just likes ruining the day, and that's kind of what you see in this episode. So I love how this was done. It was just a great setup for next week's episode of Food Wars. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. How do you all feel about this week's episode of Food Wars? Did you enjoy it? Did you hate it? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. You all have a wonderful day or night wherever you live. Please be safe. Chibi out.